3 years. 3 full years of waking before sunrise, of skipping little comforts so a bigger future could breathe, of saving folded notes inside an old metal tin and telling no one exactly how much hope was hidden there. 3 years of forms, photocopies, interviews, transport fares, and standing in lines long enough to make a person question whether dreams were only for people with easier families. And then, in one night, under one roof, while she slept with her future beneath her pillow, somebody reached into the dark and took it. By morning, the travel file was gone. The passport was gone. The approval letter was gone. And so was her stepsister. What Amara Okoye did not understand in that first shaking hour was that the theft was not just of paper. It was the theft of time, of dignity, of proof. She had not only been robbed, she had been erased inside the very house where she had spent years making herself useful enough to deserve love. But some things can be stolen only in appearance. Destiny is not one of them. Long before that morning, before the empty pillow and the open wardrobe and the silence that would split her life into before and after, Amara had already learned how to survive quietly. In the Okoye compound, the day belonged to whoever rose first, and that was always Amara. She was the first to hear the night loosen its grip, the first to pour water from the clay pot and splash her face awake, the first to sweep the front yard before the dust settled deep into the cracks. She lit the cooking fire, rinsed the pot, fetched water before the queue at the public tap became a war of elbows and insults, and moved through each task with the kind of precision that made hard work look natural. People used to say she had her late mother's spirit. Amara's mother had died when she was 10, taken by a fever that turned cruel too quickly. Her father, Chief Okoye, never recovered in the way men sometimes never recover. Quietly, without announcing it, without saying that a part of him had become too tired to protect what remained. 2 years later, he remarried a widow named Mama Casey, a woman with soft speech, measured smiles, and a daughter called Zuri. If you met Mama Casey in public, you would have called her graceful. If you lived with her, you learned the difference between grace and strategy. She did not shout unless there was an audience. She did not hit unless she could deny it later. Her favorite weapon was suggestion. A sentence dropped gently, a comparison disguised as advice, a disappointment handed over like wisdom. Amara would finish scrubbing the corridor, and Mama Casey would pass by, glance at the floor and say, "A careful girl would have seen that corner." Amara would serve food, and Mama Casey would sigh, "Some girls are born with brightness. Others must compensate with obedience." Amara would come back from the market after selling fabric, and Mama Casey would tilt her head and say, "You are trying. That is something." Trying. Always trying. Never arriving. Zuri, on the other hand, floated through the house like applause. She was beautiful in the way that made people forgive her before she had even done anything. Quick laughter, smooth excuses, bright wrappers, jingling bangles, perfume that announced her before her feet did. She started things and abandoned them with confidence. Hairdressing, bead making, a catering course. Each dream lasted only until it demanded discipline. At night, the two girls shared a room, though only one of them treated it like a place to build. Zuri would lie on the bed and talk about abroad as if distance itself were a talent. "Amara, I swear this country is too small for me," she would say, fanning herself with a magazine. "One day I will just leave. London, Canada, anywhere money respects people." Amara, sitting by the window with a notebook on her lap and measurements scribbled in the margins, would answer the same way each time. "Then prepare for it." Zuri would groan. "That is your problem. Everything is preparation with you. Life is not only struggle." Amara never argued for long. She had no energy to waste proving seriousness to people who wore laziness like style. The truth was that she was preparing. For years, she had been trading quietly. First peppers and onions in small quantities, then Ankara fabric bought from wholesalers and sold little by little to women nearby. Later, she began learning basic bookkeeping at a community center, then digital inventory through borrowed evening lessons, then sewing by watching videos on cracked phone screens and practicing on leftover fabric. She kept records in an old ledger no one cared enough to open. Every coin had an assignment. Every delay had a purpose. Every insult became fuel. That was how she found the opportunity. A woman who supplied fabrics from overseas told her about a short entrepreneurship and garment distribution program connected to a trade network abroad. It was not fantasy. It was real, structured, difficult, and expensive to apply for. Applicants needed documents, proof of business effort, references, training history, and enough patience to survive systems designed to wear poor people down. Amara did not complain. She built the file piece by piece. Transport money became photocopies. Profit became passport fees. Sleep became application time. 3 years later, the approval finally came. She almost did not believe the letter. She read it standing, then sitting, then again under the light to make sure the words had not changed. She had been selected. Her travel was scheduled in less than 3 weeks. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine arrival. Not fantasy, not soft daydreaming, real arrival. Airport lights, new air, new systems. A chance to learn, expand, trade properly, build connections no one in her street had access to. She took the letter home because, despite everything, a part of her still believed good news should be shared with family. Her father was seated in the sitting room, half watching television, glasses low on his nose. She placed the file in his hands carefully. "Papa," she said, and even her voice trembled. "It came through." He adjusted his glasses and read in silence. Then he looked up, and his whole face changed. "Amara," he said softly. "This is real." She nodded. For a moment he seemed younger, proud, fully present. "Your mother would have danced today," he said. That sentence nearly broke her. Not with pain, with relief. Then Mama Kessie appeared at the doorway. "What happened?" she asked with that controlled brightness she used when entering other people's joy. Chief Okoye smiled. "Amara has been accepted. Her travel program. She is going abroad." Mama Kessie took the file, skimmed it, and smiled too quickly. "That is wonderful," she said. "Very wonderful." Only later would Amara understand that there are smiles that celebrate you, and there are smiles that begin calculating. Zuri was louder. "What?" she cried, snatching the letter from Amara's hand. "You? Abroad? Ah! Amara, so you have been hiding things." "I wasn't hiding it," Amara said. "I was building it." Zuri laughed, but the laughter was thin. "You mean you have actually been serious all this time?" That night the room felt different. Amara folded every document back into the brown file, checked it 3 times, and placed it under her pillow. Her chest was so full of fear and hope that sleep came in pieces. She woke once to the sound of movement, but the room was dark and still. She thought nothing of it. At dawn, her hand reached beneath the pillow. Nothing. She sat up fully. The file was gone. At first, she searched like a person who still believes in mistakes. She lifted wrappers, shook out sheets, checked the chair, the window ledge, the bag under the bed. Then her eyes went to Zuri's side of the room. Empty. The wardrobe door was open. Half her clothes were gone. The small travel bag Zuri loved was missing. Amara ran. She ran to the kitchen, to the corridor, to the gate. Her throat was already closing around the truth before she found Mama Casey seated in the front veranda with a cup of tea. Dressed too neatly for that hour, too calm for a house where disaster had just woken up. "Where is Zuri?" Amara demanded. Mama Casey took a slow sip. "Good morning." "Where is she?" "Mind your tone." "My file is gone. My passport is gone. My documents are gone. Where is Zuri?" Mama Casey set the cup down carefully. "Your sister has traveled." It was the coldness of the sentence that did it, not the words, the calm. Amara stared at her. "Traveled where?" "Abroad." "With my documents?" Mama Casey did not answer quickly enough. "You did this," Amara whispered. "You gave her my file." Mama Casey rose. "Watch your mouth. Everything in this house is not yours because you are quiet and hard-working." "My file was mine." "Then perhaps you should have guarded it better." Amara screamed for her father. He came out confused, tying his wrapper, the sleep still in his face. She told him everything. Every word came out cracked and sharp. The empty bed, the missing file, Zuri gone. He turned to Mama Casey. "Casey," he said, "what is this?" And right there, in the space where a father could have changed everything, he hesitated. Mama Casey answered before he could think. "She is jealous," she said. "Zuri had her own arrangement. This girl cannot stand another person's progress." Amara stared at her father. "Papa, my passport was under my pillow." He looked at the room, looked at his wife, looked away. That was the moment something in Amara stopped asking to be chosen. The neighbors heard the commotion before breakfast was finished. By noon, the compound had already reshaped the story. By evening, it had become something else entirely. In courtyards and shop fronts and by the tap, people spoke the way people do when misfortune happens nearby, and they are relieved it is not theirs. She should have kept quiet until she traveled. Some opportunities are not for too many ears. I heard the other girl had better connections. You know, serious girls can also be proud. Pity became suspicion in record time. The worst part was not even the gossip. It was the emptiness after rage. Amara sat outside that night without her notebook, without a needle in hand, without the file she had built from almost nothing. The compound moved around her as if life had made no announcement. Pots clanged, radios played. Somebody laughed 2 rooms away. She could have gone to the police, but with what evidence? A family theft arranged in darkness, spoken into air, defended by the woman her father refused to challenge. She could have gone to the elders, but she already knew the phrases that would meet her there. Patience, respect, family matter. Let us not scatter the home. So instead, she made a promise that no one heard. This will not be the end of me. 2 mornings later, she packed one small bag and left. Chief Okoye stood by the doorway, looking like a man trapped inside his own weakness. He wanted to say something. She could see it. But guilt without courage is only another form of abandonment. She did not wait for words. Her new room was at the back of a narrow compound off Benga Road. A face me, I face you building with thin walls and a stubborn roof that leaked in two corners when it rained. The landlady, Mama Binta, was a widow with clear eyes and a voice that had no time for drama. "You pay late once, I remind you," Mama Binta said. "You pay late twice, I remove your lock. If you cry every night, cry quietly. Water is by 6. Light is when God remembers." Amara nodded. "Thank you, Ma." She started where dignity often starts after collapse. At the bottom. A tailoring shop on Market Lane needed an assistant. Not a designer, not a cutter, not even an apprentice with status. Just someone to sweep, trim thread, iron finished clothes, run errands, and keep quiet. Amara took it. The shop belonged to Madame Nandi, a heavy-set woman with sharp eyes and the habit of judging people by their hands before their words. The first week, Amara mostly cleaned. The second week, Madame Nandi noticed the neatness of her folded scraps. The third week, she saw Amara correcting a crooked hem after closing time. "Who taught you that?" Madame Nandi asked. "I taught myself." That was all. But the next day, Madame Nandi pushed a piece of fabric toward her. "Cut this." Amara cut. "Stitch it." Amara stitched. Madame Nandi held the finished blouse up to the light, turned it, checked the seams, and grunted. "You have hunger in your hands," she said. "Good. Hunger learns fast." That was the first mercy. It did not make the journey easier. It only made it possible. People from her former neighborhood still saw her. Some pretended not to. Others made sure she heard them. At the market one afternoon, while she was pricing thread, 2 women from the old compound passed behind her. "That is Amara, Abi?" "The same one. Visa girl. Now see where too much forming gets people. She should even be grateful she was humbled early." Amara kept her face still until they were gone. Then she bought the thread, walked the long route home, and cried only after bolting her door. Meanwhile, abroad, the life Zuri had stolen refused to fit her. She had imagined travel as escape, not responsibility. She had thought arrival itself would transform her. But the program demanded discipline she had never built. Attendance, reports, timelines, accountability, early mornings, proper conduct, learning before posing, structure before enjoyment. Within weeks, she began missing sessions. Within months, her money was leaking through her fingers. The travel consultant who had helped switch the final arrangements for a price stopped answering her calls once the trouble started. The women she met at parties were generous only until their generosity required nothing. The city that glittered in photos turned cold when she ran short of excuses. Eventually, quietly and without drama, she was pushed out of the program. She did not tell home the truth. Pride can starve longer than hunger. Back in the city, Amara was becoming dangerous in the best way. She was becoming skilled. Madame Nandi taught without softness. Pattern drafting, fabric behavior, measurements, finishing, client management. Why some women lie about their size. Why rich customers complain more but pay later. Why talented people stay poor if they do not learn structure. Amara learned everything. She listened when others talked. She wrote down mistakes. She practiced at night under a rechargeable lamp until her wrists ached. After 10 months, Madame Nandi handed her her first major responsibility. "A church elder's family has an engagement ceremony," she said. 9 women, coordinated outfits. They asked for my shop because they cannot afford nonsense. You will lead the underwork. If you fail in my name. I won't fail. Don't answer with your mouth. Answer with the clothes." Amara did. The outfits fit beautifully. One of the daughters took pictures and posted them online. Another tagged the shop. A week later, 3 new customers arrived asking for the girl who made the fitted sleeves and clean finishing. Not the shop, the girl. Amara said nothing, but that night she sat on her bed in the hot little room and allowed herself 1 full minute of feeling what she had denied herself for years. Proof. Not of revenge, of capacity. From there, things did not magically become easy. They became layered, better and harder at the same time. She saved again, bought her own sewing machine secondhand, started taking private orders at night, returned outfits on time, every time. When customers delayed payment, she documented it. When some tried to cheat her because she looked too calm to resist, she learned to name her price and keep her face unreadable. She moved out of survival and into planning. 3 years after leaving the Okoye compound, she rented a tiny storefront at the edge of a busier road. 2 years after that, she moved again, this time to a proper shop with a glass front, 2 industrial machines, a cutting table, a waiting bench, and her name painted outside in gold letters. Amara House. People drove past and slowed down to look. Brides came in with mood boards. Working women came for fitted office dresses. Mothers brought daughters and said, "Make hers like yours." She hired 1 apprentice, then 2, then 4. Girls who had nowhere stable to begin. Girls who looked tired in the eyes the way she once had. She paid them fairly when she could, firmly when she had to. She taught them what no one teaches poor girls early enough: that skill is freedom only if discipline holds it in place. When the shop opened officially, Madame Nandi came in a deep blue wrapper and sat in the front like a woman attending a graduation she had predicted years before. "You remember what I told you?" she asked, as music played outside and guests moved around with plastic cups and laughter. "Yes, Ma," Amara said. "Answer with the clothes." Madame Nandi smiled. "And you answered well." For the first time in a long time, joy did not feel borrowed. Far away, Zuri's borrowed life had collapsed completely. 6 years after the morning she vanished with Amara's future, she returned home with 1 suitcase, fading skin, and eyes that no longer expected rooms to open for her. Abroad had not made her important. It had simply stripped her until she could no longer pretend she had been prepared for what she stole. Mama Kessie had aged too. The compound itself looked smaller, walls stained deeper by rain, gate hanging slightly crooked. Chief Okoye's shoulders bent now in a way that frightened people who remembered him strong. Money had thinned. Pride had not, but pride does not settle medical bills. Within weeks, it became clear that Chief Okoye needed treatment for a heart condition that could no longer be managed with herbs, delay, and prayer alone. The hospital estimate landed in the house like judgment. Mama Kessie resisted the thought at first. Asking Amara felt like swallowing sand. But desperation lowers the voice pride uses. They came on a Wednesday afternoon. Amara was at the cutting table, reviewing bridal fabric, when the bell above the glass door sounded. She looked up and for one suspended second, she was not in her shop anymore. She was back in the veranda, back in the cold of that morning, back under an empty pillow. Mama Kessie stood first, Zuri behind her, and Chief Okoye, thinner than memory, leaning on a walking stick. One of the apprentices looked between them and sensed enough tension to disappear into the stockroom. Amara put down her chalk. "Good afternoon," she said. No one answered immediately. It was Chief Okoye who spoke first. Amara. The way he said her name carried years inside it. She gestured toward the chairs. "Sit." They sat. She remained standing. Her shop was quiet except for the low hum of the generator outside and traffic passing in softened waves. Rolls of fabric lined the wall behind her like witnesses. Framed on one side was the receipt from the very first full order she had completed on her own. On the other was a photo of her and her apprentices on opening day. Mama Kessie looked around the shop with careful eyes. There was something like disbelief in them. Not disbelief that Amara had survived. Disbelief that she had done more than survive. "You have done well," she said finally. "Thank you." Chief Okoye lowered his gaze. "I should have come before now." Amara said nothing. Some silences deserved to be heard in full. It was Zuri who broke first. Her voice had lost all the shine she once carried like jewelry. "We know we have no right to come like this," she said. "But Papa is sick. The hospital wants a deposit. We have tried everywhere." Mama Kessie added too quickly, "We only need help to stabilize things, just until—" "Until what?" Amara asked. No one answered. She looked at her father. His hands trembled slightly around the walking stick. Then she looked at Zuri. For the first time in years, she did not see the girl who stole from her. She saw the cost of that theft. Not on herself alone. On everyone who had chosen deception over character because it felt faster than effort. She sat down at last. "What was done to me," she said quietly, "was not a misunderstanding. It was not confusion. It was theft." Mama Kessie opened her mouth, but Amara lifted one hand. "Please, if we are here now, let us not insult the moment with lies." The older woman's mouth closed. Chief Okoye's eyes filled, not dramatically, just enough to expose a man who had carried regret too long without speaking it. "I failed you," he said. Those 3 words landed harder than all the others had. Amara breathed in slowly. "Yes," she said. "You did." He nodded as if accepting a sentence. Zuri began to cry then, not the loud crying of people asking to be comforted, but the broken, ashamed kind that happens when excuses finally leave the body. "I thought if I got there first, everything would become mine," she whispered. "I thought arrival was enough. I thought I could wear the life you built and it would fit me. It didn't. Nothing fit. I ruined everything." Amara watched her for a long moment. There are apologies that ask to be freed quickly. This was not one of them. This one had bled long enough to sound true. She turned to Mama Kessie. "And you?" Mama Cassie's throat moved before her pride did. "I wanted my daughter to have what you were getting," she said. "I told myself life is not fair and mothers must fight for their own. I told myself you were strong enough to recover. I told myself many things." Her eyes finally lifted to Amara's. "None of them were good." The shop held still. Outside, a horn blared and faded. Inside, 6 stolen years sat between them all like another person. At last, Amara spoke. "I am not going to give you cash." Mama Casey stiffened instantly. Amara continued before offense could gather. "I am not saying no to help. I am saying no to money passing through the same hands that once took my future and called it wisdom." Chief Okoye looked up. Amara reached for a notepad, wrote down a hospital name, and slid it across the table. "You will take Papa there tomorrow morning. I know a consultant there. I will verify the case myself and pay the deposit directly to the hospital. Not through anybody here. Directly." No one breathed for a second. Then Chief Okoye covered his face with one hand. "Thank you," he said hoarsely. Amara's expression did not change. "Do not thank me for my character as if it excuses yours." He lowered his head. "You are right." Then she turned to Zuri. "As for you, if what you are saying is true, if you are truly done with shortcuts, come here Monday morning at 7. Zuri blinked. "Here?" "Yes. Not as my sister, not as charity. As a trainee. You will start from the floor, sweeping, sorting, running errands, learning properly. You will earn weekly and only if you work. If you come late, lie, or disappear, do not return." Mama Casey looked offended. "After everything, you want my daughter to be a shop girl?" Amara met her eyes evenly. "After everything, I am offering her what no one offered me when I had to begin again." The older woman fell silent. Zuri's lips trembled. "You would do that?" "I am not reopening the past," Amara said. "I am deciding what kind of woman I want to remain." No one spoke after that for a while. Then they rose to leave. At the door, Chief Okoye turned back. "Your mother would be proud of the woman you became," he said. For once, the sentence did not feel like compensation for pain. It felt true. The next morning, the hospital confirmed the diagnosis. The bill was real. Amara paid the first deposit exactly as promised. She did not announce it. She did not send messages to relatives. She did not convert mercy into performance. On Monday, at exactly 6:52, Zuri arrived. No makeup, no perfume, a plain dress, a notebook in hand. Amara saw her through the glass before opening time and felt something settle quietly inside her. Not triumph, not softness, something better than both. Completion. She opened the door. "Good morning," Zuri said. "Good morning," Amara replied. "The broom is by the back wall. When you finish, I will show you how to label stock." Zuri nodded and went inside. And that was how the second beginning started. Not with celebration, not with dramatic forgiveness, with work. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Zuri struggled at first. Her body was not used to consistent effort. Her pride tripped over instruction. More than once, Amara caught old habits trying to return. Small excuses, soft manipulation, a desire to be spared the parts that looked too humble. Each time, Amara corrected her once and only once. Here, truth was the rule. Slowly, Zuri changed. Not into Amara, never that. Into someone less hollow than before. Chief Okoye recovered enough to walk without assistance after some months. He began visiting the shop sometimes, sitting near the window and watching customers come and go with the quiet amazement of a man seeing what his silence nearly destroyed. Mama Casey came only twice. The first time to drop off food, which Amara accepted without ceremony. The second time to sit alone with her. "I do not expect us to become close," Mama Casey said, staring at the folded fabrics on the shelves. "But I wanted to say something without an emergency in front of me. Envy is an ugly thing. I fed it until it became my daughter's inheritance. I should have been better." Amara listened. "You should have," she said. Mama Casey gave a sad, tired smile. "You speak like a judge." "No," Amara said. "Only like someone who survived the sentence." Years later, people would tell the story badly, as people always do. They would say the girl whose visa was stolen became rich. They would say the stepsister who betrayed her came back to beg. They would say time humbled one and rewarded the other. But that was the shallow version. The deeper truth was harder and more useful. A woman was broken inside her own home and chose not to stay broken. A future was stolen in the dark, and she built another one in daylight. A father's silence wounded her almost as much as the theft, and she learned that love without courage is too fragile to lean on. A stepsister took a door that did not belong to her and discovered that borrowed opportunities collapse in the hands of the unprepared. And when power finally returned to the one who had been humiliated, she did not use it to destroy. She used it to draw a line. That line saved her. That line changed them. The sign outside the shop remained the same, Amara House. But over time it became more than a business name. It became a kind of testimony. Girls came there not only for fittings, but for training. Women came not only for dresses, but for referrals, advice, structure, examples. And whenever a new apprentice arrived carrying the look of someone life had embarrassed too early, Amara would hand her a notebook and say, "Start where your hands are. That is enough." Because she knew now what no one had been able to steal from her all those years ago. Not really. They had stolen timing. They had stolen ease. They had stolen innocence. But they had not stolen her becoming. And in the end, that was the part that mattered most. The life she built with discipline fit her better than the one she had once begged heaven to open. The respect she earned after ruin sat deeper than any opportunity handed over by luck. The peace that finally settled in her chest did not come from watching others suffer. It came from knowing she no longer needed their approval to prove her worth. Some doors open for you. Some are forced shut by people who fear your rising. And some you build yourself so strongly that even the ones who once locked you out must knock before entering. When they did, Amara was ready. Not because pain had made her hard, but because survival had made her clear. And clarity, when it finally arrives, is one of the most powerful forms of freedom a woman can own.